Welcome guys, Scotty Ze and the Tribes United. This episode is going to be a fun one. We are going to talk all about Russia with a Russian Australian, born and raised in Russia but living in Australia for a long time. We have mutual friends, also Russian in Australia, in common. Although Anastasha and I have not had a really sit-down great conversation other than when we were in the sweat lodge together. I remember that was awesome. And at Rafi and Elena's place. So this is going to be fun. We're going to talk Russia. We're going to talk all life and the culture and all the fun stuff. So let's dive in. Anastasia, do you go by Anastasia or Anastasha, or how do you say your name in Russian or English? Or
well, the way you can pronounce it all goes. So yeah, of course, Anastasia in Russian, Anastasia in Western countries. Anastasha, how it's spelled now. So yeah, it's very. I've changed my name 4 times already through my life, so I'm very flexible with that.
Love it. I love the pronunciation of the Russian Anastasia. It's got like this beautiful ring to it, rather than English Anastasia. It goes down, whereas in Russian Anastasia, and it finishes on that uptone. Anastasia. It's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Your journey here so far.
Yes, so I definitely consider myself both Russian and Australian. I kind of, a fortune teller told me, like, I think at the age of maybe 15, that I will have 2 countries as my home countries. So since then, how it was, I came to study to Australia when I was 16. I was a first overseas student in Monash University in 1994 from Russia. And then I got back after I completed my studies. I had my full life set up back in Russia. I got married, had 2 children, had a massive business, the full kind of setting. And then after, I think I was about 33 or 34, I just moved all my family to Australia, and I've been here ever since for 13 years now.
Beautiful, amazing. Where in Russia are you from?
Well, again, we moved from 4 times. So I was born on one side of the country near Moscow, very, very old city, older than Moscow itself. My other heritage is kind of goes into Ukrainian roots as well, in the south of Russia, and I lived most of my young years up north, kind of Siberia.
Wow.
And the younger years and my adulthood in southeast of Russia, which is Vladivostok. It's a massive port and on the border with China and Japan. So I kind of been around, moved around, and and heritage from everywhere as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so great to think about Russia. Like, a lot of people don't realize, but Russia is Asian side of Russia, the border of China, Japan, and even Alaska, right? Like, and my understanding is Russia used to control Alaska and then gave it to America, or sold it.
Yeah, sold it for peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other side is the European side, right? Which borders, Estonia, Finland, Poland, so you've got this massive spread and across 2 literal cultures, Asian culture, European culture, and Russia unites the 2 of them. It's beautiful.
Well, it's not just it unites 2 of them. Like, I grew up in Soviet Union, which was consisted of 15 countries, 15 republics. However, the country Russia is a home to over 300 nationalities. Mm-hmm. Which is incredible.
And there's no racism here. We spoke about that back and forth in a video that I made. I've never experienced any racism across 15 republics, how many languages, 300 races.
No.
Tell us a bit about that why in Russia is it there is massive racism in the West, all across the West, but it doesn't exist in Russia?
To be honest, I didn't even know about such concept before I went to US, and I did my uni in US as well. Like, I was not familiar with the concept of racism at all, because look, we 3-4 generations were born in Soviet Union, which was all about equality. It's all about like equal rights and whatever you bring to the society, and you got to be valuable member of the society. And from 90s, there was like capitalism, and everyone was just trying to get ahead and be entrepreneurial. So you kind of just, it's all about your wit and brain and how fast you move. It's not about color, or I mean, how can you be like talk about color? We are so mixed and in like bred. In like, look at me. My skin is completely dark. My mom is like blonde to the blue. She's like has whiter skin than yours, and and light color. She's very Slovenian. And my dad has really dark skin. He's more on the south side, and my sister was born in Kyrgyzstan, which is now it is all changed names. So she was born in one of the republics because that's where we lived at that time. And even though people look different, like there was a curiosity. It's just like, oh my God, you look different. But there was no like you're better or worse. Yeah, it's very weird concept to me overall.
Which is
like how was it even born? Like it doesn't. It just breaks my mind. How was it even born? Who has ever decided that is this is the correct look or correct nation, that's incorrect, and or like not better or worse? Like, where was it originated? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I dare say in the English culture they had this thing, like when the English went to Australia 1788, we literally claimed Australia as terra nullius, void of life, no life on the land, because we classed the Aborigines as animals, not humans, and therefore we didn't have to conquer the land. Like if you went to a land and there was people there, you had to conquer them, right? But we said they're not even human, therefore we can just take this land as ours. Like that's the most extreme version of racism, when you don't even see a human being as a person, but they're an animal. It's incredible. So I'd say it comes from the English culture. Look what the English did with the African slaves as well. And obviously the massive racism still in America today. Obviously less and less, but it still exists. But here, not at all.
Well, it's not known, but the way Russia has expanded, it moved like from Moscow in Central European region all across. It's like it's the largest country in the largest continent, and they were inviting basically not a single nation or inhabitant of that land has ever been like conquered or forced, of which they were invited to join peacefully. There was not a single war on the territory of Russia until the Russian territory was tried to be taken by someone. When it were there was a Turkish war, and there was always kind of a bit of a push with Polish and Poland, and obviously there was a Second World War, but Russia has never attacked anybody's territory. It was peacefully expanding and inviting to join.
Wow. And these smaller nations or tribes, probably back then, hundreds of years ago, would look to this mighty force and say, wow, we can trade with you, we can grow with you. There isn't a looking down upon like the English culture. Unfortunately, I'm going to conquer this land, I'm going to conquer these people. It's like, hey, join with us, let's trade. We have this abundance, we have this network of trade. You will grow in abundance. Like, okay, I'm in, let's go. So that's sort of how it worked.
Yeah, exactly. Because my childhood was spent like up north towards closer to Sakhalin, right? It's kind of on the other side where you are.
Okay.
And say all the fruits and fruits and vegetables we were getting from south side of the country in summer because it's just so cold and it's a completely different nature and completely different like fauna and food whatever we grow is so different. So the trade was always the main foundation for the country.
So it's even like Russia is an example of the world that we could be living in the fact that Russia is the largest country in the world, largest geographic country in the world, spans Asia to Europe. And yet, from what you're telling me, just taking it at face value, they have done so by inviting people into their prosperity. And these smaller tribes being like, hell yeah, that sounds good to me, without conquering anybody, without having to force their will. Unfortunately, that's what the English culture and the Dutch culture and the French culture and the Spanish culture has done, right? That Western Europeans have done. But here we are, you're saying to Russia, it's more, and that's exactly what we see Russia is doing today. Right, I was just watching a video yesterday about Africa and all of these African nations wanting to, strengthening ties with Russia because of the trade and the support that they're giving them. So it's like that culture has continued to today, and we see the BRICS nations expanding. Like there's all these countries wanting to join the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS. They're expanding, and we're talking now about a BRICS currency to compete with the US dollar, because the US dollar has been forced upon people. But now it's more like saying, hey, this is what we're doing. If you want to be part of it, you're welcome. And we're going to expand this peacefully. Is that sort of what you feel? Like it's always been this way, that Russia has been more of a peaceful trade partner to expand rather than a forceful dominator?
It was definitely how I experienced it from especially the time of the Soviet Union, where republics, and we were taught in school, like for example, Ukraine had wheat and cotton, and like wherever some of the agricultural, strong elements to that. And other republics, they were prosperous in other resources, and that's how it was all trading amongst the countries. Of course, there was some kind of a politics that was not very exposed, but it has never been a war. It has never been like fighting against each other. There will be, of course, a little bit of a jokes of here and there, depending, we can make fun of like a Moscow accent or Moscow attitude, or on the East we speak faster, or in different nations they have their own little quirks, but it was fairly harmless. It has never been based on a hatred, because there was no ever reason to hate anyone.
Again, a counter to what the Western culture has pushed upon the world. You spoke about Ukraine a couple of times. We have to go there and have a quick chat about that. To me, it's incredible. You're saying I think it was your father or something has Ukrainian heritage. Like my wife's ancestors also have Ukrainian heritage. Like Russia, Ukraine were one people. They're like cousins. The language is, we meet Ukrainians when we're traveling, and you guys are speaking like, the Scottish in the English, there might be the Irish in the English, might be a couple of changes here and there, but effectively like one people. What's going on? What is this thing with Ukraine right now? And just tell us your perspective.
Well, my perspective, you got to go back to history to about 15th century, 16th century. So this is all where it all kind of has roots. It's never how it just seems, so simple, like someone, a leader of one country just went crazy and decided that. It's nonsense. Like you cannot live your life thinking that such huge events pop up out of nowhere or out of somebody's bad character trait. That's naive. you got to look into the history, and you got to look into how all the systems like intertwine together, and like there are causes and consequences of everything. So Ukraine has always been in between kind of Poland and Russia. It was always east and west situation, and it has been going on for quite a while on the back end, on the background. Similar to what happened to Czechoslovakia. It just was divided into countries in the east and west. And I believe there's so many things that are at play. Like US is playing its own game. The Cold War has never actually ended. It has never stopped. It has always been. And if everyone is playing their own game and their own agenda. And it's very, very sad and unfortunate that, our two nations had to become so intolerant of each other, and so it just were turned against each other, because it was one country for over 80 years. Ukraine spoke Russian, and there are two generations of Ukrainians that they didn't speak Ukrainian. They did not have a language. They literally just forgot and let go. And we also there's so many marriages that has happened during that time with people living all over the Soviet Union. So it's, for us, it's like a civil war. Of course, US is in other countries, Western countries are representing it in a different way, but for our nations, it's a civil war. And a civil war is the saddest and most traumatic event in the history of a nation.
Yeah, I'm seeing the Ukrainian culture right now, just, with how many people have been killed. Like, this is wiping out generations of young men, especially, that you can't get back. That's going to be a big hole in not only the Ukrainian culture, but the Russians don't want to be there. They do not want to be doing this, as far as I can see. Why would you want to fight your own cousins? The Russians tolerated from 2014 until 2022 what was going on in the Donbass, thinking that the Minsk agreements, which a lot of people don't even know about this, but back when the coup d'etat happened in 2014, backed by Victoria Nuland and the Americans, threw over the democratically elected government in Ukraine and put in their own puppet government. They've been shelling the Donbass. That's when Crimea said, we don't want to play. They voted to go to Russia. The Donbass was also like, we don't want to play. And it was negotiated that there would be peace in the Donbass, that the Ukrainians would stop shelling their own people, Ukrainians, but they're Russian, but they were drawn in the borders into Ukraine with the split of the USSR, right? Or during the USSR, but they're Russian, they speak Russian, they live Russian, they are Russian. They just happen to be in a line that had made them Ukraine, didn't want to be part of Ukraine in the, post-2014. A lot of people don't realize all of this is happening. And the Minsk agreements were never honored. So 8 years of putting up with this destruction and killing, over 10,000 people civilians were killed. And then finally was like, look, we're going to have to put a stop to this. And we realized that it's NATO that Russia is fighting, right? The Ukrainians are the ones out there dying, but it's NATO weapons, it's NATO aggression, it's NATO intelligence that is pushing through Ukraine. And it's like getting two brothers to fight against each other, but there's one bully that's pushing one of the little brother, the weaker brother, into the fight. And he's like, man, I don't want to fight. I've got to fight. Oh, terrible. Terrible for Russia, terrible for Ukraine.
Yes, and there is a younger generation already brought up with a certain, brainwashed state of mind of not having peace, not having that trade. It was just like kind of us or them, and that's what it leads to. Like, if you don't know, like, or people that are listening don't know, go and check it out. Russia has never attacked any other countries. Like, for the territory for any other
or their
purposes.
resources or anything.
And this is much bigger. Yeah, it's a much bigger play of the territory, resources, power. Go and read Shock Doctrine book, and this method.
What is the book? Sorry,
this strategy, Shock Doctrine. I will send it to you.
Yeah, cool. We'll include it in the show notes, guys. So it'll be in the description or in the show notes.
So the same, so Naomi Klein. Naomi Klein is a book. It's like really red and hard to miss cover. This strategy has been implemented by by US by elite on many countries over and over again. That this shock that they impose on the country, and they destroy basically the internal sovereignty, and they then sell it all apart and bring capitalism, not capitalism, but bring the corporations, bring US corporations
take
into
all
the
the wealth
country.
out of the
and
country.
That's what happened to Russia exactly, and that's what happened to Russia in the 90s as well. The whole, it was just all sold out within a year, and it took like 20 years to kind of bring everything all back together, where it is finally, like, those corporations were kicked out of Russia, and actually internal business went up and the internal trade went up. So those interventions by in other countries by US, it's never for the good of the country that they're invading. It's never for the internal good. So, like, wake up.
And you're saying Russia has never, and I don't know of any, we had the Chechen war, but that would look like it was internal, and then Russia came in to sort out the terrorist activities that were in there. But it's not like they invaded Chechnya, or Chechnya.
Chechnya is part of Russia.
Yeah. So there's no country that Russia has gone in and invaded, yet there's a laundry list of countries that America has, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. I'm sure there's plenty of, I saw a list the other day. It was like 15 countries or something. A lot of countries in Africa as well. Russia's not doing that.
I think that probably the last one was during the Soviet times with Afghanistan, and that was quite also bloodshed, completely bloodbath, but only done for money as well, and it's all political.
And like you said, it's the elite. It's not the Americans walking around on the street like you or me. It's the elite that control this large and dominant country. So I like that you said that, and I've been following this as well, that the Russian sovereignty is increasing. The internal businesses, the internal trade, they're building all of these companies that left. I think it was hundreds and hundreds of companies that left in the start of 2022. And now Russian companies it's like they flicked the flea off the dog, finally, since the 90s when America came in, and, the oligarchs, that was American backed, right? Like the Americans were pushing for that collapse of the USSR, came in, usurped the resources and the control. And Putin, over the last 20 years, has been trying to sort that out. It's been a big mess. But now with this special military operation, a lot of these companies have left. The sovereignty here is increasing. The ruble, so strong. Strongest performing currency in 2022 globally. The strongest. The sanctions are going to crush them. Yes, there was a massive drop in the ruble. And then it got stronger because I'm selling Aussie dollars to buy rubles, right? And I was like, oh my God, my Aussie dollar's going nowhere. The ruble is, and I'm building a house at the same time. The ruble was so strong, and still it's come down a bit, but it's such a strong currency. The country is stronger than ever, even though all of these sanctions. This can only be a good thing for Russia.
Absolutely, and it has been a sovereign country as well for such a long time, like
USSR times, especially
Cold War. No one was trading with Russia. The borders were closed. Like we didn't have a single. I didn't have I had my first chewing gum when I was like 12.
Oh, wow.
So it's like for when I go to like workshops here in Australia about like living off the land and learning the plants and stuff, we knew that from childhood. That's how we grew up. We knew everything, about living on the land and surviving. We were taught that at school. Like in school, we would be taught how to distinguish, and all of that knowledge that, now we talk here in Australia, let's go back to Aboriginal knowledge. They know all the berries, they all know all the plants. We knew all the berries and we knew all the plants and how to heal yourself if you cut yourself, and what to eat and what to drink if you're feeling this or feeling that. We had no farmer, this crazy control of the American farmer. It's a different life back then.
And it's still so traditional today. Like my wife, so her passion is, she's created a tea business called Premi Chai. And Premi Chai is all about wild-picked native herbs. And literally all summer last year, she's like, oh, we got to go here today and pick. Okay, let's go. So we go in the car and she shows me which ones to pick. And we spend a few hours like picking all these herbs. She comes and dries them. I have to make all these shelves. You can see herbs up. I don't know if you can see it, it's dark, but that's some herbs. She's got boxes and boxes of herbs. She understands all of it. And all of the old ladies do. Like every time my wife gets a chance, she's chatting to the old ladies, learning about this. They're picking up. And I was calling them weeds. I was like, man, look at all these weeds. She's like, they're not weeds. They're herbs. There's just fields and fields of herbs. It's so traditional. And the Dutcher lifestyle here, and a Dutcher, guys, is like a country house. And my understanding is back in the USSR times, everyone would be given an apartment, right, as part of their work because it was all state controlled. Yes. So they would be given accommodation in the cities or near the factories. And then they would have a piece of land out in the country, right? It could be 15-minute drive or an hour drive. Yeah. We're 45 minutes away from the city. Yeah. And they would go to the Dutcher all summer, and the food that they would grow. Oh my God. The amount of food being produced in Russia, like small scale in your backyard, like walking around the village, not even the eco village, but when we lived in the other village in Nizhny Novgorod, mate, every backyard is just full of food. There's no grass. There's nobody mowing the lawn at all. There's no lawn to be mowed. It's all rows of fruit and vegetables. That's so good. That's what everyone in the West wants now. And Russia has never lost that. It's always been.
It's never gone anywhere. It's always been. And like, it's very sad to think that, our country could be like threatened or attacked in a way, but it's undestroyable. Like I truly believe that. And we grew up remembering the war that like my grandmother was little when Germany was invading, and they were surviving the whole winter like on potato and onions. And we know all of that, but we were taught our history. We were taught how people lived and how people survived. My children, of course, they don't know all of this. They grew up in Australia. But like our generation is very, very very switched on about how to survive and also how to keep their sovereignty no matter what.
Yeah, 9th of May, the Victory Day here in Russia is big. Like we have Anzac Day in Australia, but it doesn't hold the same memory because 27 million Russians were killed in the Second World War, which was the largest loss. There was only 9 million Germans killed. 27 million, and Germany was like they were the ones that finally lost. 27 million. So it's in the culture. They know their history. It's celebrated like I've never seen anything else before. I love that you said Russia is unbreakable, or is that the word that you use? You can't conquer Russia. It will never finish. I agree with this. from what I see in being inside Russia, the people are so strong. They are so connected to the land. They are united. Like I was reading a thing about Putin when he came to power in 1999 or 2000. His campaign pledge was unity, right? I want to unite the people. We need to reunite, because there was, through the 90s, this pulling apart. All the republics got separated. All of the wealth got usurped. And then Putin came to power, didn't want to be in power. Like, he was the prime minister, and he actually said no to being the president at first. Then it's like, you're the man for the job, you got to do it. It's like, wow, okay. And he wanted to bring unity. And that's what I see in Russia. There is no racism. There's no divide and conquer, whether it's transgender conquering that we've got going on now, or black and white conquering that's been going on in the West for such a long time. There is only unity here, and people are connected to the land. They grow food. They know how to survive. They're strong people. Like I say this, Anastasha, the Russian men are strong and the Russian women are sweet. And I love that. That's all I want, is sweet, beautiful, kind women. Sorry?
I thought you will say stronger.
Oh, the women are strong. I thought you will say
Russian men strong and women stronger.
Strong, but not like a masculine strong. You know, like in Australia and in the West,
no,
we have this. There's, through the feminist movement, there's been a trickery, and women are trying to be like men. And I think that's why the divorce rate is so high. Is men are losing their masculinity because these women are trying to be men. Like, some of these women look like blokes. They look like men. And it's scary. Whereas Russian women, and you have that trait in yourself, there's a sensitivity, there's a sweet, there's a centeredness, there's a strength of character, but there's not this outward strength of like, I need to be a man to compete in a man's world.
Yeah. We definitely have a very strong, very big kind of polarity of masculine and feminine in the culture. That's how we were brought up, and also these are our values, and that was in recent speeches of Putin as well, as we are supporting our values, family values. We have a mom and we have a dad. We don't have like parent 1, parent 2, parent 3. We have a mom and a dad, and it's very simple. But this is like, but it's very natural. So I don't think there is anything wrong with that. It's so everything is good in moderation, and of course there are many varieties, and that's also what we are used to. There are so much variety in the world. Because we grew up in such a culturally diverse country, we understand the variety, but also there's no push or pressure, or it's like, oh, you have to be like that, or you have to accept this. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of kind of the country itself and the culture, and also what's going on right now. There's just really a big misunderstanding, and it's all comes back to the fact that it was a Cold War where the whole country was shut off from the Western world, and it kind of opened up. But that image or misconception that was also fed so cleverly in Hollywood is that Russian people are always, it's either mafia or they're just complete like murderers, crazy of the head. Psychos, and it's been draping after the war, after this war started. I kind of like rewinded back every single image of a Russian person I have seen in the media or in the movies, and there was not a single positive one, not a single positive.
Hey guys, just quickly, if you have wisdom that you want to share, if you're the kind of person that you are a healer, you are a guide, you are a coach, you are somebody who has wisdom, but maybe you haven't taken the leap of faith to get it out there to the world, we need you now. The world is waking up. We need leaders like yourself. We need guides like yourself to get out there and share that wisdom. But it's not always easy. I get that. So I've put together a 45-minute masterclass on exactly how you can do 3 things. 1, take your wisdom and turn it into an online transformational program to deliver the result of your wisdom in the digital space. 2nd is how to use social media to gather your tribe. We've created a unique system of using some simple automation to automate you people coming into your reality every single day, aka new tribe members, around your wisdom, the content that you share. And then finally, the most simple sales and marketing. And I know a lot of people don't like those words, but let's just say it as it is. You need people to pay you so that you can help them, right? So you can feed your family and do this full time. So I'll teach you the easiest jargon-free way to attract your tribe and turn them into paying clients so that you can grow your business online. If that sounds good, head over to wisdomtomany.com, and I will teach you how to take your wisdom online and serve as many people as you can. Head over there, and otherwise, let's jump back into the conversation. Yeah, the Russia phobia is deep. It's the James Bond against the Russian mafia type imagery that has been fed to us. And I watched a documentary. It's been for hundreds of years. There has been this Western, it's again, divide and conquer. You need an enemy. Who's the enemy? Where's the strongest nation? Largest country in the world, strong people, that's the enemy. And that's what's happening today as well.
Yeah, and it could go, it quite possibly goes back to a religion as well, because Russia originally was, what's that in English? Язычники.
It's not the animalism that far back?
No, just living on, living on the land. Very close to Celtic. I'll remember. But it was not Christianity as well.
Yeah.
Christianity was brought in, and then also it was.
What is that word called? Come on, guys! Someone put it in the comments. I can't remember the word. It's like when you live just one, like the shamans do, like one with nature. It's my wife always calls it animalism.
Pagan.
Pagan. That's it.
Paganism. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So that was the root of Slavic culture.
Yep.
And Christianity was brought in, and then even after the Christianity was introduced, it was again Russia chose Orthodox, which is how this Christian religion split in 3 versions, and Russia became Orthodox, again very different
from very, Catholic and Protestant,
separate. Very very separate. So it's definitely a very unique culture, unique story, and with a massive respect to other nations and other kind of religions and other countries and other traditions.
Yeah, well, there's religion here is no problem. You can be whatever religion you want, and there doesn't seem to be an issue. Like there's large tracts of Muslim down south, the Christian up here.
Yeah.
Again, Asian on the east, European on the west, and this idea of like a mixed race or a mixed religion marriage is not even a thing. Like you said, your dad is more dark, your mum is blonde hair, blue eyed, but there would be no conversation about that. It's just like that's normal in Russia, but in the West, it's like, oh, it's a mixed race marriage. They're mixed race kids. It's like, but in Russia, that's like a foreign concept. It's like, but there's lots of us, and we all look a little bit different. Like it's totally normal, right? In the West, exactly. It's not normal.
Yeah, exactly. What's for us, it's like, and what's not mixed? Because everything is so mixed already for centuries. Like, show us which is not non-mixed.
Yeah, exactly. And I see it in my wife. She has darker, like olive skin like yourself, but piercing blue eyes. She's got the same eyes as me, but she has the olive skin. and her mum's the same, but then her sister has like dark eyes and the dark skin. And it's that Mongol Genghis Khan roots, like a lot of people don't realize that the Mongols control Russia for 500 years. We're controlled in this place. And what is it, like I don't know if it was 1/5, it was like some very large number of people in the world have the blood of Genghis Khan himself, because he conquered so much and so many women. And I sort of joke to myself, it's like, I believe my son has Genghis Khan roots in him from his mum, because mum definitely has that Mongol look in her.
Yeah. So the legend says, yes. I'm now hooked on Telegram, the channel called Lost, and it's all about lost history and all the things that are, coming up from the history that are kind of been undisclosed or been hidden. Buildings like half digged out of the or historical facts or artifacts found. It's extremely interesting. I don't think we know even 10% of our history. We can trace back like some kind of recent history, but when it comes to like over 100 years and more, I would be very open to accepting that we don't know.
We don't know. Guys, I'm going to get that Telegram channel, because I want to join it as well. We'll put it in the show notes, along with all the connections where you can connect more with Anastasha. If you head to scottyze.com and just search Anastasha, that's how you spell it now, with a S-H-A at the end, Anastasha, it will all be in the show notes, including that Telegram channel. So scottyze.com, head over there. But yeah, that's the manipulation that we've been through by the elite, who are manipulating us through Hollywood, through media, through education. Our whole history has been erased, wiped, changed, manipulated to control us, to believe that we are small, that we are weak, that we are nothing. And that has been a systematic breaking down of who we truly are. But right now, with the awakening happening, and with so many people opening their eyes and being like, wow, there's got to be more than this, channels like Lost and conversations like we're having now are becoming so much more prevalent that it's increasing the awakening process. And the awakening, the freedom movement, to me, is not just about realizing that we've been manipulated and that all of these people are, Satan worships and trying to hurt us, but who we really are, right? Like who we are. We are angels on this planet, and we have unlimited power and potential, and that's coming to the forefront now as well. What do you think Russia's role in this awakening is? Because all eyes are on Russia now, and so many of the awakened freedom community are looking at Russia as this beacon of light standing against the Satan worshippers. What do you see Russia's role, traditional values and all of that, in the coming awakening?
Look, I definitely believe that a second force as powerful as, the matching, the attacking force is required, and it's only not only natural that it was born. Like if there's one controlling force in the world, like pushing one agenda, you cannot be naive. It's a law of physics that you will have
equal and opposite force.
Equal force, matching it, and so it's definitely needed. It's definitely required. I am in awe of the fact that my nation is doing it, and taking it on itself. And I have a very strong belief and trust that those people will stand for it, just because of that incredible connection to Earth. Incredible connection. You can take everything away from a person. You can take all the material things, but you will never take away spirit or the life force until that life force is connected to Mother Earth. And you will see in other nations as well. Like, we will look at India and we'll feel sorry for them for living in such conditions, but at the same time, it's one of the most spiritually awakened countries. They have the more saints and people enlightened than anywhere in the world, and just ask yourself why. So that spiritual kind of force and offset is needed on the planet. I do not distinguish it like as white and black. I don't believe there's anything white and black exist ever, or and that, you know, if like Putin is just a saint and say US is evil. No, absolutely not. Everyone has their own agenda. It's a like calculated 3D chess that that they're playing. And just, I was thinking to myself the other day, like, say, imagine that I had billions and billions of dollars, and what would I do? What would I do? I would create a mastermind of billionaires. Okay, so once you have a mastermind of billionaires that have a whole power, what are you gonna do? Okay, you're gonna start making decisions. Who are you gonna start making decisions for? You start making decisions for the country, for the nation, for the whole world, and then it all comes down to what intentions do you have with all those decisions. So when my first awakening happened, when I realized that we are being manipulated and the truth has been hidden, I was like, why would you, like, that's unbelievable. Why would anyone do that? But put yourself in their shoes. What would you do? You would do exactly the same. You would do exactly the same. You will start thinking, okay, what is in the best interest of like this group, or what's the best interest of the planet? Whatever level of awareness and consciousness you are at, that's how you will start thinking. Correct?
And that's the difference, though. The level of consciousness that they're at is more about self-centeredness, protecting what's theirs and expanding it, than what you're saying is, I'm going to go and help my nation, my people. I don't know if the people that are in control are thinking so much about helping other people other than themselves. Most likely
their agenda is, maintaining power, expanding power, and so on, so forth. So there's it creates this wave of awakening for other people. I truly, really, hope that this power dynamic will change on our planet, because it's been for such a long time so weirdly twisted, and no one has benefited it except for Western countries, and we're not used to seeing this way because what the media shows us. We think everything is okay and everyone is okay in the world, but the truth is we only see what we see from our window. In our window in the Western country shows nice, a nice setting and beautiful life and beautiful weather, while for other countries it's not so sweet and it's not so great. And I left Russia at that time when it has been destroyed. The Soviet Union has been collapsing, and I know how it feels when your country is being completely torn down, by forces just outside of your control, and outside of the control of the leaders of that country in that moment.
Well, I liked where you're going, that I hope the power dynamic changes on this planet. I believe that's exactly what we're in right now. We're in the change, Putin's talking about, and Xi, who just met, are talking about the collapsing unipolar world, the hegemony of the US and the US dollar, to a multipolar world. And what I can see Putin's intention, and I'd love to get your belief about Putin or your feeling about Putin, but he's like wanting to help raise up these other nations. And he's calling out the hypocrisy of the West, and the West just taking what the West wants. And he's saying, let's help Africa raise up. Let's help these Asian nations. Let's help South America, the global South that is struggling so much. Let's help them rise up, because as they have more prosperity, there's more prosperity for all. It's more about like a rising tide raises all ships, whereas the Western mentality has been, let's invade this country, let's take as much as we possibly can for ourselves. And again, as you said, Russia has not been invading countries. The US has a laundry list of countries they've invaded to destroy, topple their government. You know, yesterday I read this thing about America's ally, Japan. And I was like, America's ally? You really think after World War II that Japan is America's ally? Japan is completely controlled by America. And not of the American people, like the people who control America completely control Japan. They're not allies. The Japanese fought against America. They're not allies. They're controlled and manipulated by the same people. So don't bullshit me there. Whereas what I'm seeing is like the ally that Russia is making now with the BRICS nations, with China, with Iran, Saudi Arabia is now joined the Shanghai Corporation. Like these seem to be more, I'm sovereign, you're sovereign, you're sovereign. Hey, what if we all work together and we trade? I've got, like you said, with the republics, you've got wheat, you've got gold, you've got oil. Let's trade amongst each other and raise all ships. That seems to be what we're moving into. So I believe that that collapse of the US dollar, inevitably happening. The banks have already began. And I read an article the other day, Russia's saying we're so cut off from the Western banking system that we're insulated from their collapse, their impending collapse, right? So as all of that goes down, Russia, especially with the gold reserves that they've been taking, I think China as well. I don't know so much about China's economy. I know less about that. But with Russia, with the sanctions since 2014, been insulating itself now in the last 12 months, completely cut off from the SWIFT network, can't even access global trade, not using the US dollar anymore, right? Had all of those funds frozen, euros and US dollars. Now they're just creating their own currency. And with the BRICS nation, we're in the midst of a massive changing of the guard, and Russia seems to be at the forefront with it, making allies, making partners, and doing the best. And I love that. And you said like you're proud that it's your country. I'm stoked that I'm here. I couldn't imagine a better place to be in the world right now, even though it's freezing cold. You know, and I've got 3 fires to tend to and snow to shovel. Kid from Cairns, no idea. But I'm grateful to be here.
It's okay. It's almost April. It's going to get better.
It'll get warmer for about 6 months.
The spring is gorgeous. So you will experience all aspects of the seasons there. It has its own joys and pleasures. Yes, definitely. It's in regards to my opinion, as you asked, he is definitely one of the strongest people I have ever seen in my life. Yeah, it's got to be respected. Like just that enormous burden that he put on himself, and of course there's plenty of hatred goes his way for being whatever in greedy power greedy, etc. But it is a huge burden. Have you tracked the running a nation of, what is 200 million, 150 million? That's the largest nation on the planet, and the largest country in the world. It's a burden, and it's not an easiest nation to run as well. Like, if you probably have met it, like Russians are very outspoken, very opinionated, and with a lot of fuck you attitude. So it's a big undertaking, and he's definitely a very strong human. And what I was listening recently about his kind of energy field as well. He's incredibly strong, and he has got a very strong energetic field as well, which constitutes a true leader. And he's making some waves. So, and I'm always in support of people that are standing up and making some waves. I am not. I'm never a support of being like everyone or bending over backwards for somebody else's will and desire. Or for I'm not much of a follower. So yeah, go for it. Whatever is he's shaking up in there. I am supporting that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm 100% with you on Putin. I call Putin the master. Like, he is the master. He is a eighth Dan judo master, literally. There's no, like, I trained martial arts since I was 10. I have my black belt in karate. He has 8 levels of black belt out of 10. Like, the guy is just a master of martial art. Like, he's dedicated to that way of the martial arts. And what he's done for the country in the last 20 years, taking it from literal ruin, bankruptcy, the collapse of the USSR, and he's dragged it to the powerhouse that Russia is today. And that's why the West is so afraid of Putin, because he is such a strong leader. And like, I've watched countless documentaries on him, and the people around him, they're like, he runs the country like the CEO of a massive company, right? Like, he's like the CEO of the country, the way that he manages it and puts everything in place. I have so much respect for Vladimir Putin. Like, I look up to this man, even though he's little. Like, I look up to this man and I'm like, teach me, how to lead, how to stand in my own strength and power.
Well, definitely. He's a very, very, very strong leader. Like, I grew up with him in my family. My dad is ex-mayor, and so I was very close to politics. And at that time when Putin was in power, well, he was always in power, right? Since 1991.
Since 91, you think, even when Yeltsin, Gorbachev and Yeltsin, you think Putin was still in power? Prime Minister.
Yeah, just read about it. Like, he was in political. He was named as a Yeltsin.
The next
in line. He was the next one. He basically, Yeltsin handed over, or Yeltsin was advised to hand it over to him at that time. And since then, I think the only his only goal was to bring back what was destroyed, because it's hard to explain. Like, if you read that book, you will understand. I cried. It goes into detail, basically describing every single country that has been destroyed this way.
Jesus.
Chile. All the Syria, Iran, Iraq, and
Serbia, Yugoslavia,
basically,
like these ones as well.
All those eastern countries, Eastern Europe, one by one, and how it's been destroyed from the inside, bringing in that capitalism, basically. To bring economy of that closed economy of the country into the globalization by causing internal destruction. And I spent my teen years during that destruction. I spent my years with shootings on the streets and a complete chaos, and how it was all brought back into kind of normality, to normal state. It's a huge undertaking. And
Putin has achieved that.
I don't think he will, until he's alive, he will never allow it again. Like, it's kind of what his mindset right now. It's like, not on my watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Not on my watch. You will tear down the country again. Like, what happened to Ukraine is very, very unfortunate. It was torn down from the inside. The nation was fed information and raised on the belief that those are bad, these are good. You gotta start separating. It's been brainwashed to separate,
completely manipulated by the West
from West.
Yeah.
And manipulated. Of course, now they are struggling, and it ended up in the war conflict. But if you're constantly feeding hatred and separation, what do you think the result is going to be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they pushed him into a fight. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you constantly provoke someone, what is going to be the result? The consequences are always there for you to witness. We just need to take this opportunity to wake up. We need to take an opportunity, because this time it's not so brushed under the carpet like it was with other countries. How it was with Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. It's not so brushed under. It's not so controlled anymore. We communicate between each other. We have social media. We have some kind of freedom of expression. So this time we need to learn to grow within ourselves and expand the awareness of what's going on. And nothing is black and white. They gotta hold the paradox. You gotta hold the paradox of that there is bad and good. There is all aspects of everything at the same time, and how your energy is clean in that moment. How do you stay centered? How do you stay in love? How do you stay connected to the truth, not to what's fed on what's fair or how it should be, or but whatever the beliefs that you've been imposed upon you. But what is your stand in this as a sovereign?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
what I respect. So that's what I respect the Putin for his sovereignty. And he says it all the time. He's like, this is who we are. This is our stand. This is our decision making. We are not going to be following anyone. We're not going to be bending down. We are a sovereign nation, and he says those words many times.
And he lives it. Like what I just see with Putin, he loves his people so much, and all he wants is the best for his people. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, he's like you said, he's stealing from the people and he's robbing the people. It's like, come on, have a look at the economy of Russia in the last 20 years. Have a look at the state of the nation since Putin came to power. It has only increased in prosperity. It has only increased in strength, in unity. Everything that he set out to do, he's achieving. And I agree with you. He's a sovereign man. He stands in his own power, and he will, like you said, not on his watch. He will not let Russia crumble back to the days of, the 90s with the Western manipulation, the collapse of the U.S. He will not allow it. He will not allow it, and he will only see this nation rise. And again, that's why I'm stoked to be here, because I feel like I'm planting my roots in a stable country over the next several decades to raise my family. And that's why I'm having conversations like this with you. I just want to help people to realize you're being lied to on the media, right? You've been lied to in your school system. Hollywood has been manipulating us to hate Russia for such a long time. Wake up. That is not the truth. The truth is this is a centered, beautiful people living close to nature, growing food, zero racism. They're all united. They love each other. They care for each other. And Russians are sovereign beings. This whole movement, we want to be sovereign. Russia is living their sovereignty. They will not bend the knee. They're standing in their center. And I just want other people to feel that. I'm blessed. Like, my family is Russian. My son is born in St. Petersburg. My son speaks better Russian than English. We speak Russian at the breakfast table. My wife and son only speak Russian, right? And I've got to interject in English and try and get him to speak English when I can, but his Russian's twice as good as his English. It's I live in a Russian village. It's part of my reality now, and it's my responsibility to help get this wisdom and this strength of the Russian people out to the Western ears. I want to help people to realize there's a strength of character here that we can learn from. There's a people here that are standing in their strength that we need to learn from the Russian people. So thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Definitely, the concept of sovereignty is very unknown to many people. So it's something to learn. At least to at least take an opportunity to learn and understand what it is.
Yeah, it's not just an abstract concept that you strive for. It's like this is a lived reality here. This is a sovereign nation and becoming more and more so. With the more sanctions, the more sovereign, right? The more corporations that leave, the more sovereign. So everything that's happening right now is strengthening Russia. And you can see that in the economy.
And, I wish this for every single nation, for every single country.
Absolutely.
I don't believe like any country should suffer or should be better or worse than the others. And sovereignty and equality is possible for a certain level of awareness and for a certain level of integration of that, consciousness. Once we overcome scarcity and greed and fear, we can move on to the next level, which is collaboration, trade, and being interdependent.
Yeah, that's lovely. But sovereign, and then partnerships. And Putin always calls them our partners, our Western partners. It's always about a partnership. I want to live in a world like that, where we help each other to rise up, and then we support one another through trade and mutual respect. And again, I see that in Russia. There is a mutual respect of other countries, of other cultures, of other races. There's just this equality where there's nobody higher or lower. And I think we can all take a leaf out of Russia's book. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anastasha. You're awesome. This has been such a fun conversation. And I believe you have a couple of Russian friends. Bill, you connected me with, and I forget the other lady. But please send them my way. Maria, perfect. I would like to have more conversations like this. And guys, if this resonates with you, leave some comments, share this with somebody that needs to hear this message. It's important that we have these counter conversations. And again, from an Aussie living in Russia, it's a bit of an interesting take on the world. And I'm, pretty international, 20 years traveling the world. This is my fourth language. I love people, I love cultures, but I've never met anyone like the Russians. And with Russia being on the world stage, it's important that we help share this wisdom. So thank you. I appreciate you. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any bits of wisdom, any advice, anything that you want to share before we go?
Oh, I think there's been plenty of wisdom and advice in this conversation. Great job, Scotty. Thank you. I really, honor you for making such a huge leap. I would definitely, if I was, born and bred in Australia, I wouldn't take a chance on surviving in Russia. Because I already have. So it's a huge, a step that you are making, and I think it's also brings like more nations together as well. Like you being there, talking to people here, it's just like expands that horizon. It's like that globalization, but without globalization, without that negative globalization thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But just bigger view of the world.
Yeah, that's important. It really is. Thank you. You're amazing. Appreciate you guys. If you've got some value out of this, please head over to scottyze.com, search for Anastasha. In the show notes will be there. We'll include the book, we'll include the Telegram channel, and your links to your company. I want to give a shout out there as well. You've got the editing company. So if you guys need some video editing done, head over and you'll see it all in the show notes. And then you're on LinkedIn there as well. Hasn't been much of a business conversation, but we'll include those show notes just to sort of share the word of what you're doing out there as well. So head over to scottyze.com, guys, and search Anastasha. You will find all of those show notes. And please, if you have got value from this, share this with somebody that you love, okay? Hit that share button, share it on your social media, send a direct message to somebody that needs to hear this, because this is the way that we get this wisdom out to more people. So if you've got value, share it again so that other people can get value. And we appreciate you for living the life that you are. You're beautiful. Thank you so much, and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you, Scotty.
Ciao. See you guys.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.